Well, hello, hello. It's Christmas Eve, and I'm coming to you live from Massachusetts. Welcome, welcome. I hope more people join us, and I'm going to take a quick look at my laptop to make sure that video and audio are good. If you can hear me well and see me well, give me a thumbs up and let me know in the chat. Good to have the early birds here with me. Looking good. Early birds include Hugo Frez, I see you, and Hayat Guzel. Yes, you either the first or second. Thank you for joining me, guys. Some of you may watch the recording later. That's wonderful because I know this is Christmas Eve, a family time for many people. So I just wanted to take some time before I start my own celebration with my family to share a very well-known Christmas story with you. And I thought we could have even just half hour or an hour together on this day. And even if you're not celebrating Christmas, I hope you enjoy what I've prepared for you. So we'll be reading a story today by Charles Dickens. We'll start in just a moment. But it's just a beautiful story about the human spirit and what we're capable of and all the possibilities and opportunities we have. So I think that's something that everyone can relate to. All right. Hi, Aguzal, Mohammed Idris, Samadi. I'm fine. How are you, Mohammed? Altin May, or me, hello to you. Flapaboy, I don't know how to say your name, but Flapaboy, hello to you. Nina, I see you. Thank you for confirming, Nina. I appreciate that. Lolly Lolly, glad you're joining me from France. Hello there. And thank you. It's closer to real Christmas Eve for you. I know it's evening for some. I appreciate that you're taking some time to join me today. UMK, thank you. Merry Christmas to you as well. AO. And Nina, oh, you're from Maryland, same time zone. That's good. Thank you for your wishes, Nina. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Nihil Gutam, glad to have you here. And Elisa, Philippe, Merry Christmas to you all. Boxing Day. Well, guys, who knows? Has anyone else besides Hayat Guzel, has anyone else heard of Boxing Day? I didn't know about it until I was an adult and until I started teaching English, because that's not an American tradition, that's in the UK. I know about it now, but we don't have Boxing Day here. It's a nice tradition, though. Okay. Mayer Guerra, hello. Hey, Danny. Alexander, is that Naidionov? Hello to you. Glad to be here. Didas, hello. Okay, guys. Okay, first question is, how many of you know Charles Dickens? Do you know his work? Have you heard his name? Charles Dickens. Let's write his name there. Charles Dickens. Have you heard of him? Do you know his work? Yes, No White Christmas. That's why I like sharing stories and poems like this, because it helps me feel filled with the Christmas spirit, even if there isn't snow on the ground. That's okay. Oh, from India? Yeah, Boxing Day isn't here. Charles Dickens, guys, British English writer, not American, but his work is so well known, so very well known. No, you don't know? Christmas Carol? I don't know his actual birth date. We can Google this. I'm going to Google real quick. Charles Dickens, English novelist and social critic. What are his birth dates? Oh gosh, February 7th, 1812, and died June 9th, 1870. Oh, I didn't know that. 1812 to 1870. Charles John Huffman Dickens. What a long name. Charles John Huffman Dickens, born 1812, died 1870. So English, not American, but his work is very well known. And A Christmas Carol is by far the most famous Christmas story, and it's been around over a century, and it's been adapted so many times. It's performed on stage. There are many movie versions. There are versions for children. There are musical versions. It's just such a beautiful story that it lends itself to retelling and interpretation. A while ago, many years ago actually, I went to New York with some friends, and I was able to see a one-man performance, like a one-actor performance, a solo performance, I guess you'd say, by Patrick Stewart, if anyone knows that actor. And I remember him doing the whole play by himself. He played all the parts. He was very talented. Okay. You will know. Rubel, Merry Christmas to you. Lucia, hello. Alisa says, I know his book about a boy, Oliver Twist. Yes, that's another very well-known story. Madhavan Kuti, yes, A Christmas Carol. So that's what we'll be reading. Now, the way I've prepared it, guys, is we're going to read it 3 times because I have 3 versions. This way, everyone can follow along. Each version will become more difficult. I have 3 versions that have been written at different language levels. So the first one will be easy to understand for everyone. Then we're going to increase the level of difficulty. But as we do, you won't be lost because you'll know the basic story. And as new vocabulary comes up, we'll address it. And hopefully by the end of this live stream, you'll know the story well enough to retell the story yourself. Even if it's without all the details that I'm sharing, you'll know the story well enough that you could summarize it for someone else who says, Charles Dickens, who's that? Christmas Carol, what's that? Maybe you can challenge yourself to give a 1-minute summary. Okay, with the vocabulary that you have and the vocabulary that you'll have learned from today. Okay, from Spain and from Pakistan, glad that you're here. Let me take a sip of tea. Oh, and let me share one of my Christmas gifts from a friend. Can you see? She gave me, my friend gave me 2 mugs. This is the head, and the second mug is the body. So I'm using half of the gift right now. Okay. Okay, let me work my little magic and switch to my screen and hope you can see this. And I'll wait just for a moment to make sure that on my laptop everything looks good. Okay. So as I said, we're going to read 3 versions now of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And one other note while I'm waiting for the live stream to catch up to where I'm actually at. It's not really live. There's always a delay. So I'm waiting for my there we go, my laptop to catch up with the feed. I have a version, or like an edition, a very old edition of A Christmas Carol. I inherited this copy. I did a little bit of searching on Google to try to date it because I looked for a publication date and there wasn't one inside, but I found another copy that looks like this one. I think this is a vintage edition, probably from the 1920s. Isn't that amazing? So it's like 100 years old. The pages are kind of yellowed. The print is very, very, very small. In this book, the actual story is 127 pages. 127 pages. It was published in New York, this edition. So I have an old copy, a vintage edition here in my home that I inherited. And I think it's very special to have that. It makes me very happy to know that I received something so special and that 100 years ago, somebody also really loved this story. Okay. All right. The first version we'll read is A2. I'd say this is like high beginner, low intermediate, more like high beginner. Okay, photos courtesy of Pixabay. Okay. All right. There was a man in London, and his name was Scrooge. He was not kind. He loved money more than anything. He did not like Christmas and thought it was a waste of time. But one Christmas Eve, 3 ghosts visited Scrooge. These visits changed everything. Okay? I think for most of you, this is easy to understand, but there may be some for whom this is still a challenge. Some of you intermediate and advanced students can help and give some definitions. Can someone explain ghosts, and put that in the chat? We might have some beginners watching, and that would help. Who visited Scrooge? 3 ghosts. At least I see Scrooge McDuck. Yeah. Okay. All right. The first ghost showed Scrooge his past. He saw happy times when he was younger. People cared about him. The second ghost showed the present. Scrooge saw other people and families. They were enjoying the holiday. Scrooge understood that people might have little money, but they could still find happiness. The third ghost showed him the future. In the future, Scrooge was alone and sad. No one needed him or liked him. This made him think. He knew he needed to change. Was it all a dream? Did he sleep through Christmas? When Scrooge woke up, it was Christmas morning. It was a new day, and he decided to be kind. He gave money to help people, and he visited his nephew, his only living relative, I should say. Everyone was surprised because Scrooge was so different. From that day on, Scrooge became a good person and helped others. This made him happy. He had the Christmas spirit every day of the year. And I'll back up and just give some credit here. I'm not solo here. Adapted by me and ChatGPT. I did go to ChatGPT and made a request for a certain language level, certain length, and then I tweak it. Tweak is edit, make little changes. I'm not always completely happy with what ChatGPT comes up with, but it's helpful. And then I change it more and more to make it the way I think it should be. So this is A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, and I adapted it with the help of ChatGPT. Okay. Did anyone help? Guys, someone, oops, ghost. Ah, Farman, I like what you wrote. Yes, people usually associate fear and being scared with ghosts, right? But from stories and movies and tales, we know that there could be kind ghosts and helpful ghosts. So ghosts are the spirits. It's something that once was alive but now is dead, and it doesn't have a physical body. It's just the being, the thing that, I guess, the spirit inside of us. This is our physical body. Inside of us is like a spirit. And there's a belief among some, if you've watched my recent grammar lesson, it is believed that ghosts are the spirits of those who once lived, right? So they might stay around to finish business or something like that. These ghosts had a purpose to visit Scrooge. There was the ghost that showed the past, the ghost that showed the present, and the ghost that showed the future. And each time Scrooge saw something in that time period, he understood more and more that he was not living the life that he should or could be living. And so he decided to change, right? A man like this, all by himself with lots of money, is not happy because he's all alone and has no joy, no one to share it with. So he begins to understand what real happiness is. It is a beautiful story, okay? All right, any questions about this level and the words in A2? right? There's some good expressions here too, though. Phrasal verb, wake up. Relative, a family member, right? So Scrooge obviously did once have a family. He had a sister, parents, etc. But everyone had passed away, and the only person living from his family was a nephew. The nephew wanted him to celebrate Christmas together, but Scrooge didn't want that at first. But after he decided to change, he did visit his nephew, and everyone was so surprised because he was different. Okay. Yes, cartoons, animated versions. There's so many versions of the story. Just Google it. One of my favorite versions, let me type it. I put the word Muppets, not puppets, Muppets. The Muppets are like puppets, and there's a version of A Christmas Carol with the Muppets. And Michael Caine, a British actor, and it's so sweet and cute with the Muppets, and it's a musical. But Michael Caine does a very good job playing Scrooge. So you can find that on YouTube later. Okay, let's raise the level of difficulty, guys. Level B1. Level B1. Once upon a time in London, there was a man named Ebenezer Scrooge. He was not a happy man. He loved money more than anything else. He did not like people, and he especially did not like Christmas. He thought it was a waste of time and money. One cold Christmas Eve, Scrooge saw a ghost. "I am the ghost of Christmas past," said the spirit. Scrooge went on a journey to his own past. He saw himself as a young boy. He remembered happier times. He also remembered being in love as a young man. But he lost the love of that woman because he began to care more about his business than her. The ghost of Christmas past disappeared, and a new spirit came. This one was cheerful. "I am the ghost of Christmas present," said the spirit. He showed, or he or she, let's say it. I can't remember honestly. If it showed Scrooge scenes of people enjoying Christmas in the present. Families were sharing meals. Friends were sharing laughter. And even the poorest of families found joy in being together. One scene touched Scrooge deeply. It was of his own employee, Bob Cratchit, celebrating Christmas with his family. The Cratchit family had little money, but they were happy and thankful for the time they could spend together. Scrooge began to understand how wrong he had been in all the choices he had made. The second spirit disappeared, and a third ghost came. It was mysterious and silent. Scrooge recognized it as the ghost of Christmas yet to come. He was very scared to see his own future. Without saying a word, the ghost showed Scrooge a future filled with sadness and loneliness. People spoke badly of him, and there was no one who would miss him. At one point, Scrooge was taken to a dark, sad place. It was a graveyard. There, Scrooge saw a lonely grave, and he understood that it was his. The old man was going to die alone and unloved if he did not change his ways. Scared of everything he saw, Scrooge wanted another chance in life. He promised to be a better person and to celebrate the true spirit of Christmas. Suddenly, Scrooge woke up in his own bed. It was Christmas morning. Extremely happy that he had a chance to change and live a better life, he ran out into the streets. He gave money to help others, greeted people with kindness, and even joined in the Christmas fun at his nephew's house. From that day on, Scrooge was a new man. He became known for his generosity and kindness, and he discovered the true meaning of Christmas, the joy of giving, and the warmth of love between friends and family. Fabio, welcome. Beautiful Yanni, glad to have you here. Okay. Did you follow along? Any questions? Any new words? Let's go back. This version has another word for ghost. What was that word? Look here. Said the Spirit. So ghost, spirit, in this context, it's the same. We also talk about the Christmas spirit. That's a second meaning. So spirit could be ghost, but spirit could also be the feeling and the mood and the attitude, the emotions. So when we talk about the Christmas spirit, it's the feeling of joy and kindness, all the positive things, the spirit of the season. Lots of holidays have a certain feeling to them, right? Usually positive, I should hope. And so the spirit of Christmas is a joyful feeling. So again, spirit has two meanings. If he loved money and didn't want to share it and if he didn't want to spend it, he was not generous. We saw another form of generous, a related form, generosity. So if generous is the adjective, generosity is the noun. Okay. It's good to know word families, because as you form sentences, you might need that word, but a different form, a different part of speech. So if these forms are somewhat unfamiliar to you, write them down. Generous, generosity. You know warm, how about the noun warmth? Warmth. Right? If you need to review irregular verbs, remember wake, woke. Run, ran. There's some irregular verbs in this. Saw. You also see this word, disappear. If I take this off, we have appear. Disappear, go away. If something appears, we can see it. When it disappears, we cannot see it. Appear and disappear. Any other words you want to ask me about? Good expression here, a waste of time, a waste of money. If you don't value something, you could refer to it as a waste of time, a waste of money. Some people think of YouTube and social media and say, oh, it's a waste of time. It's not good for you, right? That's one very extreme point of view. But other people see value and see helpful applications of social media, and so they recognize it's not a waste of time. It depends on how you use it, right? Like we are. Okay. All right. Again, we're reading, let me go back for anyone who's joined us late. We're reading A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, an English writer. These are not the full stories. The full story is very long, as I showed you with my copy, my vintage copy, probably from the 1920s. So this one has about 127 pages of fine print. I don't know if you could see just how small the writing is. It's a long story. Oh, and by the way, let me see if I can jump over here. Gutenberg.org. Gutenberg.org, Project Gutenberg, they have works that are in the public domain, meaning it's not copyrighted. It was once upon a time, but public domain means it's free for everyone to enjoy and use. If you want to see the original version, you can come here and you can see my screen. If you can see me scrolling, look how long it is. Okay, so let me scroll. Do you see? The actual story is quite long. So if you have the time and desire, you could find it, but I would encourage you to start with my versions. Okay. All right, let's continue. We had A1, A2, which is like high beginner, B1, low intermediate, and now we're going on to B2 and a little higher. This B2 version is high intermediate, borderline low advanced. I threw in some high-level words here. For those of you who are studying the vocabulary and context, you can make note of new words. See if you can understand these new words in context. If you want to ask me about them, I'll give you a chance to do that after I'm done reading, okay? Okay. In the bustling city of London, there lived a miserly man named Ebenezer Scrooge. He was known for his frugality, disdain for humanity, and a particular aversion to Christmas. Scrooge was a solitary figure, but he soon had unexpected company on a cold Christmas Eve. The first to arrive was the ghost of Christmas past. The spirit appeared in a shimmering light. The ghost guided Scrooge through time, revealing scenes from his youth when he was full of hope and joy. They witnessed moments of love and friendship. With a heavy heart, Scrooge observed how the pursuit of wealth gradually extinguished his youthful enthusiasm, and he had also lost the love of a woman. The ghost's unworldly touch brought him back to the present, leaving Scrooge in contemplation. Any questions? A lot of words here, right? Miserly man. We know he began as not generous and then became generous. So if he was very stingy, he was holding on to his money and not wanting to spend it on anyone or anything, he would even sit in his own cold office, even though he had the money to heat it up with more coal. He didn't want to spend money. That's a miser. Miser is the noun, miserly is the adjective. So he was a miserly man. And again, not wanting to spend, he's very frugal. That's the adjective. Frugality is the noun. Disdain for humanity. He didn't like it. He looked down on it. He did not like people or socializing with people. He didn't greet people on the streets, and no one greeted him because they knew he felt disdain, dislike, strong dislike, and a particular aversion to Christmas. He also didn't like Christmas. So if you have an aversion to something, there's strong feelings against it. So basically, he's one really unhappy guy. Doesn't like anything or anyone. Okay? All right. So, sad guy. After all that he saw in the past, he was left in contemplation. Contemplation, contemplate, think. Think deeply. When you contemplate, you think deeply. He's starting to think like, oh my gosh, I used to be one way. I'm really different now. What happened? What changed? What am I doing? So he's really thinking deeply about the life that he's living and the changes that have happened over time. Next, the ghost of Christmas present appeared, a jolly figure radiating warmth. This spirit whisked Scrooge away to observe the current holiday celebrations, including the festivities at the home of his nephew, the only living relative Scrooge had. The nephew had invited his grumpy uncle to Christmas dinner, but Scrooge most ungratefully refused. The ghost showed scenes of merriment and generosity, from lavish feasts to humble gatherings. There was a stark contrast between the festive joy of others and Scrooge's own somber existence. Again, this is high, intermediate, low, advanced, quite advanced at times with the vocabulary. Jolly figure, happy figure. radiating warmth. The sun radiates warmth and light, right? It sends it out. Radiate. You can radiate good things, radiate joy, radiate happiness. You can see someone who's happy and their smile radiates kindness, for example. So this spirit quickly took Scrooge away, whisked him away to observe celebrations. And although the nephew was very kind to invite him to Christmas dinner, Scrooge was very grumpy and said, "No, don't invite me, don't bother me, leave me alone." He was ungrateful, ungratefully refused. Okay, again, I'm checking the chat, so if you have more specific vocabulary questions, feel free to ask. Merriment, look inside. This is the noun. Merry with a Y, like Merry Christmas. Merry is the adjective. Merry, merriment. Here we go again with generosity, the noun of generous. Okay. The most poignant scene featured Bob Cratchit, Scrooge's underpaid and overworked clerk. Despite his meager income, Cratchit clearly enjoyed the company of his loving family, especially his ailing son, Tiny Tim. Scrooge could not help but feel a pang of remorse as he saw Tiny Tim's fragile form, realizing the dire consequences of his penny-pinching ways. Scrooge paid his hard-working employee very little, and the father struggled to provide for all his children. Right? Poignant. It's strong, and it makes an impression. It creates this sadness. He saw this scene, and he really understood, like, oh my gosh, he felt badly watching this scene. It brought him a strong feeling of sadness, poignant. So Bob Cratchit is his employee, his worker, underpaid, overworked, had a meager income. So Scrooge paid him very little. His income, his earnings, his pay was very little, his meager income. Cratchit had a number of children, and one of them, Tiny Tim, was ailing. Well, if someone is not able to provide well for the family, they don't have everything they need, like food, medicines, etc. Tiny Tim, he's ailing, he's sick. And Scrooge sees that Cratchit is not able to provide better care for his son, and he feels this pang of remorse. Sorry, my throat is getting scratchy. If I start coughing, excuse me. So remorse is a feeling of regret. You're sorry for something. Pang is a sharp feeling. You can have a pang, like pang of hunger, like, oh, I'm so hungry. This pang of remorse is this feeling of deep regret. He's very sorry. Like, he understands that he is partly to blame for this situation. Tiny Tim is sick, he's fragile, he's weak. And these are the unhappy consequences, the serious negative consequences of pinching his pennies and not paying his employee enough. Haunted by Tiny Tim's uncertain fate, Scrooge pleaded for another chance to mend his ways. The ghost of Christmas present vanished, leaving Scrooge in solitude once more. So Scrooge is starting to think, not only am I sorry, but I want to change. And he's starting to ask, I need a second chance. Let me change. Let me mend my ways. Let me change my behavior. But that second ghost, the ghost of Christmas past, vanished, disappeared. Okay. As the clock struck midnight, the final apparition emerged, the ghost of Christmas yet to come. A silent, foreboding figure, the spirit revealed a future that brought sorrow and death. Scrooge witnessed his own lonely demise with no mourners to say farewell. The harsh truth of what waited for him struck him like a bolt of lightning. Right? Emerged, came out, the third ghost came. Ghost, spirit, apparition, similar words. Right? His demise, he sees that in the future, it's just getting worse and worse. It's leading to an end. It's like a breakdown. And when he finally dies in that future yet to come, there's no one to mourn him, no one to feel sad. Like, oh, that's so sad that Scrooge passed away. No one is going to be sad because he's not doing anything to make anyone care about him, right? But then he realizes all of his errors, all of his mistakes, and this strikes him like a bolt of lightning. Strike, past tense, struck him like a bolt of lightning. Again, that sharp feeling with pang. It's like, really, oh my gosh, I really, really need to change. It struck him like a bolt of lightning. It was a strong realization. Okay. All right. When Scrooge was confronted with his own grave, he grew desperate for a second chance. He implored the spirit to change his fate. The ghost, without uttering a word, pointed to the gravestone as a final warning. Scrooge understood that he alone had the power to alter this dark future if he embraced the true spirit of Christmas. Awakening in his own bed on Christmas morning, Scrooge felt a surge of determination. Overwhelmed with gratitude for the chance to redeem himself, he vowed to change for the better. Eager to spread goodwill, Scrooge left his home with a smile. He donated to charities, showered kindness on acquaintances, and surprised Bob Cratchit with a generous raise. The transformation was profound, and the city of London buzzed with whispers of Scrooge's newfound benevolence. Let's pause for a moment, and then there's the last two paragraphs. Confronted with his own grave. So with this last spirit, the spirit of the future, the ghost of Christmas yet to come, he's looking at his own grave where he's going to be buried. Confronted, he's faced with it, he sees it, and he's desperate, right? He's very, very much wants a second chance, and he's asking, greatly asking, he's pleading, he's imploring the spirit, please change all of this, don't give me this future. But the ghost again is reminding him, like, hey, this is the future, and if you don't want it, something has to change. So without uttering a word, without saying a word, this last ghost is silent all the time. It doesn't utter a word, it points to the gravestone. And then Scrooge understands that he's the one that has the power to alter the future, to change the future, if he embraces and holds the Christmas spirit. So he wakes up and he has this big feeling that's getting stronger and stronger, this quick, sudden feeling of determination, of desire to change. He is filled with thankfulness, right? He's overwhelmed with gratitude. This feeling is just filling and overflowing inside of him. He has so much to be thankful for because he has a chance to change, a chance to redeem himself, a chance to do something about past mistakes. And so he promises to change. He vowed to change for the better. Okay? And it's very nice that he begins to pay his employee a much better salary. Okay? As Christmas festivities unfolded, Scrooge found himself surrounded by people who genuinely cared for him. The once isolated miser became a beacon of hope and joy, proving that even the coldest hearts could thaw in the warmth of the holiday spirit. And so, in the heart of London, a reformed Scrooge discovered the true essence of Christmas, a time for love, compassion, and the renewal of one's spirit. Hey, is that nice? The actual story is much better, but there's a lot more to read, okay? The Christmas festivities unfolded. It's just a nice way to say they happened. They took place. One thing and another thing, they unfolded. Remember miser, miserly? Miser is the noun, miserly is the adjective. We begin the story and we see Scrooge as a miser. he lives it's a miserly life. He's very frugal and doesn't want to spend his money. But he changes and becomes a beacon of hope and joy. A beacon is like a light. Think of like a lighthouse with the light shining so that ships can find their way. So he becomes this light for people, like a model for others to see. That is generosity. That is kindness. So he becomes an example of hope and joy. And his transformation, his change, proves that the coldest hearts can thaw. If we have ice and we put it under the sun, or we just take it out of the freezer and put it in the sink, it's going to thaw and melt. If you have a frozen turkey and you want to cook it first, you have to thaw it. Thaw, right? Thaw is coming to room temperature, and then eventually something like ice can melt. But his heart was cold and then it thawed with the holiday spirit. The true essence, we'd say the spirit, the whatever is something, whatever makes something what it is. It's the truth, it's the authenticity, the genuine thing inside of something. The true essence of Christmas is not about, shopping and buying gifts and taking pictures with Santa Claus at the mall, although these are all fun traditions, somewhat at one level, that's more of a superficial level, but deep down, the true essence of spirit is really just about joy and happiness and sharing joy together with friends and family. So even with or without gifts. So I hope you enjoyed it. Okay. This is a more challenging version. What I might do is I may share it on Patreon, because I'm not able to share texts on the community tab so easily. I will probably make this version available on Patreon for those who want to read this version. I can make it public, but you have to sign up on Patreon. Let me quickly do Patreon. So if on Patreon, I'll put the link. So you go to patreon.com, and then it's English with Jennifer. Okay. If you also come to my page, by the way, there's a couple more things you can see. If I click on this, by the way, this is my final gift, guys. I've been giving it out to other people. Anybody who wants it. I have a pronunciation toolkit. That's my Christmas gift to everybody. It is a pronunciation toolkit that's a PDF and an MP3. So if you want to practice the 15 vowel sounds in American English and improve your accuracy with vowel sounds, you can listen and look at the PDF to follow along. There's also a short paragraph that you can practice for oral reading. But beyond that, there we go. See how I click that, guys? If you click on my page to get all the links, Patreon should be one of them. Here we go. Okay, so click on Patreon. You can sign up for free there. So two things you can do, if you'd like. You can get my free pronunciation toolkit. That's gift number one. You click, you give your email, and then the PDF and the MP3 is a download. It will be sent to your email. And if you come to Patreon, I'll be posting the script that I was reading today, the 3 versions. So if you'd like to see a copy of the 3 versions that I read, you're welcome to sign up and get that on Patreon. Okay? Any final questions? Okay. Just guys, so go to, I see the link, just go to my page on YouTube, click for more links, and you'll see the pronunciation toolkit, you'll see Patreon. It just takes a moment on each one to sign up, and it's all free. You just need to do some clicking. Okay, I'll do that later today. Another fun challenge that I would encourage you to try is retelling the story. There's the basic story. You don't have to remember all the details, all the words. I would encourage you to review and reread the story. But even now, what's the story about? It's about a man named Scrooge. He lived in London, and he was really stingy. He was a miser. He didn't like spending money. He didn't like being with people. He wasn't kind. Just really was an unhappy guy, but he kind of liked it that way. But then on Christmas Eve, he was visited by 3 ghosts. The ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas yet to come. And these visits showed Scrooge his past, present, and possible future. And he understood how much he had changed over the years, and how being so focused on money made him lose whatever happiness he had. He lost friends, he lost happiness, he lost the love of a woman because he was so focused on money and business. And he also sees that by not sharing what he has and not paying his employee fairly, he was actually doing even more harm to his employee's family. And he understood that he really needs to change his ways. Otherwise, he will die alone and extremely unhappy without anyone to mourn him. And so when he wakes up and he realizes he hasn't missed Christmas, it's actually Christmas Day, he decides to change, and he promises to be super kind to everybody and very generous with all that he has. And he keeps his promise, makes the change, and everyone is so surprised that Scrooge is able to really embrace and embody the Christmas spirit, not just on Christmas Day, but on every day of the year for the rest of his life. Okay. Another fun detail of the story, though, is that if you've read it, or if hopefully you'll see a version of it, there's some fun versions out there. He actually has visits from 4 ghosts. The first ghost is his business partner, Bob Marley. And as I recall, his business partner had died like years ago, like maybe 7 years ago. And his business partner shows up on Christmas Eve. And he warns him, saying that you're going to get visits. You're going to get visits from 3 ghosts. And you're going to get a chance that I didn't get. And Bob Marley's ghost has these chains, I think. And it's like these chains represent how he lived his life. And these chains hold him down from being this beautiful, happy spirit. And basically, I understand that, or as I remember, Bob Marley was just as miserly as Scrooge. He loved money just as much. And so when Bob Marley died, Scrooge didn't care much either. And Marley comes back to say, you're living the same life, you're making the same mistakes, and you're going to die the same death. If you don't want that, you need to change. So listen when these 3 ghosts come and pay attention. So he gets that warning from his old business partner, Bob Marley. And then, so it's not a total surprise that the 3 visitors come to him. I just didn't have time to work that into the short versions that we read today. But again, it's a really touching story. And I hope you enjoyed the different versions. And I hope you'll take the time to search for more adaptations here on YouTube, and visit Patreon, sign up, get a free account, and I'll make it public. I'll share the text that I read today. Okay? All right, guys. Let me see where we are. Oh, someone's Lisa. No, I'm not Russian. But it's really funny. I'm half Filipino because my father was Filipino. And then on my mom's side, there's a mix of Eastern European. So Polish, Serbian, Hungarian. But when my Polish ancestors came to the U.S. and immigrated, we found their papers. And at the time, they had to give up their allegiance to the Tsar of Russia, but they considered themselves Polish. I thought that's interesting, right? That somebody, they once upon a time, they had allegiance, or they were forced to have allegiance to the Tsar of Russia, but then they came from Poland and immigrated here. So my background is, if we talk about my ancestry, so I'm Filipino, Polish, Hungarian, and Serbian. But I do speak Russian. I studied Russian in high school and in college. No, I started in high school just a little bit, and then in college I became more serious about it. Just fell in love with the history, culture, and literature. Okay. Marat, hello, hello, Marat. You're in Germany now, Marat. I'd love to hear what's up with you. Visit me and tell me. Maybe on Instagram in 2024, Marat, you'll tell me where you are. Okay, and from Azerbaijan, good to have you here. Okay, guys. Well, I would love to wish everyone celebrating Christmas a very Merry Christmas, a beautiful, happy, healthy, joyous holiday. For those not celebrating Christmas, I just wish you a peaceful time full of shared laughter, good health. May you stay healthy now and through the new year. And I hope, I don't know if I'll go live again before the end of the year. But again, I wish you all the very best. Thank you for studying with me in 2023. I look forward to 2024 with new ideas, new lessons, new questions. And I look forward to sharing the learning journey with you into the new year. I wish you and your families all the very best. Good health and all the good things that the world and the universe can bring. I hope you experience them all. So thank you for being with me, guys. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays.